this is Jer. I'm playing Oxygen Not Included. This is cycle 330 of my Moonlet playthrough. So I'm preparing this rocket to go back to the homeworld. Main goal is I'm going to bring some algae with me, but main goal is really to get water back in this world because it is low, and I'm relying on water for oil, washrooms, and oxygen. In the homeworld, I'm preparing a rocket to go to the newly discovered Frozen Asteroid. So I need to bring along some refined metal. I'm going to choose lead, and the reason for that standard rocket for new asteroids. But I need a platform on any new asteroid. That's why I've got that refined metal, making sure the Trailblazer is also made of the exact same material, lead. One of the materials I want to take with me on that rocket to the frozen world is glass. And I don't have enough glass with me. I think a lot of it is in the Desolans. But that's okay, I can make some more. So I'm going to get my dupes over here to start producing it. It's going to fall in that water. And I'm going to wait till it cools off till about 20 so degrees before it gets loaded inside the rocket. I'm sending Engineer over to the inverted world. So I need some Wheezy warts because I want to take that along with me to this new frozen world, even though I know there's going to be some there. I also want to start on the construction of the ability to get on top of this world. So I can build some solar plants, I can build a rocket platform, and other things. So Engineer is going to kick off that effort. Alright, so I don't have any refined metal in that inverted asteroid, so I'm going to bring some iron over, and the purpose for that is to be able to build some atmosuits and atmosuit stations. So I wanted to go get my dupe to dig up to the top, and there's a little channel there that I can get up. That's kind of making a sort of bridge, if you will, between the different hot magma on other sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a drop off or a dip down area here so I can create a vacuum. Because if I can go up that area in a vacuum with the dupe wearing an atmosuit, very important they wear an atmosuit even though they're in a vacuum, because if they breathe out a little bit of carbon dioxide, that could heat themselves up and make them pass out. So I do not want that to happen. So just building all the infrastructure to have the ability for the dupe to go across here once they're wearing the atmosuits, dip down through some water, and preserve a vacuum on the right side. As I'm looking around this world, I've decided I want to drop off not only the Wheezy boards, but any sleet wheat. Because the sleet wheat is going bad here depending on where it's sitting. If it's in an area with carbon dioxide and it's freezing, it'll pretty much last there forever. But there's a few pieces that are going into polluted oxygen and other places that are too warm for it to freeze. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have that dupe drop the Wheezy Warts, or, well, the Wheezy Warts, yes, but the Sleetweed as well, down this line, and it's going to go right into the ingredients line of this base, so it will become frozen. So even though I'm not going to be using Sleetweed for food at the moment, I can build up a certain amount of seeds, because I want to actually plant a lot of wild Sleetweed in the future. So this will ensure I'll get a lot of seeds when I get to that point. I'm having some lead brought into this world. So they've carried it up here next to the rock and just dumped that on the ground. I'm going to get them to put it inside this bin. And I previously tried to put a carbon skimmer in there, so that didn't work out because I forgot I don't have water, or very much water. So I'm just going to deal with carbon dioxide that's there, and I'm just going to give one of the dupes the ability to rebuild that sweeper, because that lead that I'm putting in there is pretty hot. And I'll send them through the scrubber after that's constructed. I don't want this conveyor line to be held up. An engineer is the only one who is not in this asteroid that has the ability to build. Actually, no, sorry. One of the other dupes is, but I've given them a second one, so now they can tag team that project. There they are. They're completed that line. Did not want the sleet wheat just hanging out in an area that was too warm and had oxygen, so it ultimately would go bad. So let's get that moving. Get those two dupes to create that. Send that through the ice block, or not technically ice, but a chill block, and that drops the temperature down quite a bit. And as it sits here, it's frozen. It's in the sterile environment. It will last forever, and any pieces that weren't actually will eventually interact with that aluminum tile and become cold enough anyways. But that is actually about 100 seeds just from the little bit of work. So I'm going to continue on digging out additional spots where I can get access to sleetweed, because I see a few pieces that are in frozen carbon dioxide that I'm not worried about, but I might as well get it to my base because ultimately I need it anyways. And I can guarantee that if it's in my base, it will last forever in my new new deep freeze system. I'm aiming to take about 3 tons of glass with me, so just upping the number of glass that gets produced here. Okay, so just reviewing my water to oxygen system, I realize I've forgot a few things in the last episode. One is the alternate line for everything that's not hydrogen at the top. So I'm going to put that through a high pressure vent. And if it detects or brings in a little bit of oxygen, it'll go out in that direction. That just prevents it from going into the manual or the hydrogen generator. So that would take damage if oxygen or some other thing then hydrogen went in there. So I've got a vacuum above that water. Happy about that, because that is going to prevent heat from going into my base. And I will mention one of the viewers, Ugly Sad Life, amazing name, they mentioned about the heat that comes from these electrolyzers. So yes, I'm not dealing with the heat yet. That will have to happen, especially since I'm going to be giving this 95-degree water once that geyser eventually starts refreshing that. But as I mentioned, the polluted water oxygen system is going to be the primary thing until I start to switch over some pipes. So I'm going to make sure that can still function. Okay, another bug over here. This the alternate line to everything but oxygen should be connected to the input to the gas shutoff, not the output. So I had a little boo-boo there. So that's now fixed. So all 3 of those filter. There you can see a dot of carbon dioxide went out. Okay, so let's go over. I'm going to set a setting here of -6 to just give a little bit extra chill to my deep freeze system. Okay, I'm going to shore up this area over here. And reason for this, I definitely want to maintain the vacuum on the right side. And if I start digging around in the future, this whole thing could go. So I just want to secure this with a water dip down area that's going to guarantee that I always have that vacuum maintained. It's also going to allow me to dig out some sand, because I still want that for my polluted water oxygen system until I turn that off. And as well, that's one of the inputs to making glass, which I need to make about 3 tons of preferably, before I send my rocket out. I'm also putting in, just moving the location rather, for the bleach storage location so that bleach stone does not escape as chlorine. Because I have use for bleach stone later on, and there's just no need of chlorine at this point because I already have a system that is using chlorine. I don't need anything else anytime soon anyway. I haven't yet automated the process for getting pips back in the stables when they get low. Now that I've got plastic, I have the ability to do that. But I haven't debated yet whether I'm going to actually build that system in or just wait till I switch to a better source of food. And I plan to bring or build a system for pepper bread. Initially going to grow sleet wheat in this frozen asteroid, but until that happens, I still have to manually sort out these pips unless I decide to automate that. So we'll see what happens in the future. So I'm going to start increasing my dependency more on the polluted water, or rather the water to oxygen system. So I'm going to actually converge that with the output of the polluted water to oxygen system. So it's going to the two systems will effectively be sharing the load, and they'll do that until I get to the point I turn off the polluted water to oxygen system. Earlier, I had destroyed 3 liquid reservoirs that were here. They were made out of steel. They were designed to hold hot oil. But I have a system for sending oil to my home world now. So I'm just going to make this out of regular material, perhaps copper ore, so that I can get that steel back. Figure I might as well make some more ceramic. I'm going to want to take that to the cold asteroid world. I found some nuclear waste in my base, so just going to have a drop-off spot for that to get rid of it. So I'm taking the second line of oxygen that's on the bottom, and I'm going to do a similar thing that I did earlier. So it's going to converge with another line down here that's providing oxygen with atmosuits, and that will that'll just increase my dependency on the water to oxygen system rather than the polluted water to oxygen system. Just checking the temperature of my base. It seems to be doing pretty decent. I think the key thing is that hot water at this point is not interacting with the rest of my base. But I do notice that there is a little bit of a slowdown in the salt water. I think it's still too full. So I'm just going to add an extra line to go through. Hopefully that will resolve this. So in the Desolens, the hydro battery has steam. So what's going to happen at nighttime when the solar panels aren't effective anymore, I can actually get power from that. So that's going to help run a rebel generator all night long, and that's going to send that stuff into the interplanetary rebels, into the interplanetary launcher to send oil to the homeworld, so I can get more plastic, which I'll need more of. All right, one of my dupes making a mess here. Oh, what is with the showers? Okay, that's. But anyway, more importantly, let's get some outhouses because I don't have any water. I need to get that rocket back to my homeworld to fill up with water right away. Change of plans. I'm actually going to cancel this launch. I'd still need water, but there's another way of getting it there. I'm going to use the interplanetary launcher that's in my homeworld and get it to drop it off at this location. I already have fully used the telescope in this world, so I can destroy it. But over in the homeworld here, I'm going to start the construction of an interplanetary launcher, as I mentioned. I just need to find a good location for this. I want it to be above the solar panels so that the solar panels can still get some sunlight. And this might be a good spot, actually. I'll just need some mesh tiles. I'm building that out of mesh just so that the solar panel underneath can get that light, because light will shine through mesh tiles. And I'm just going to reflow the heavy watt wires around this. So I'm just going to build this up as well, because I'm going to need a red bolt reflector where that solar panel is. And that's going to get rad bolts into that. And I can then start to send other material to the various different asteroids, starting with the Desolens, which requires some water right now. So I'm going to put a red bolt reflector. I'll put automation with it so I can turn it on and off depending on where I want red bolts to go. But ultimately that's going to have red bolts go to the right. I'm going to put through a joint plate. I already started a tile there so it won't leak out into the vacuum. but that will allow the red bolts to get right to the interplanetary launcher to send water or other materials. So actually, I can also send some solid material. So I'm going to build a conveyor rail for that and put the joint plate right there. So the dupe that's flying here was going to be the pilot is not getting out. So I've had this happen before. I'm just going to hit cancel launch. I think what I need to do is hit clear. Without that, we'll see what this does. If I click on that, will they leave and do their normal dupe stuff? They are. Okay, so they were trapped in there because I told them to go somewhere, then cancel it, but I don't know if that's a game bug. But anyway, in my case, clearing the location fixed the problem. In the rocket that's going to be going to the frozen world, I'm deciding up the amount of algae that I'm going to take from 3 tons to 5 tons. Over here, I'm going to start the process. So no, don't want polluted water. I want to have water sitting there, and that's going to be the barrier between a vacuum that's inside on the right side versus the rest of the base. Okay, so the other thing with that asteroid is I'm no longer processing the polluted water that comes from it. And that's because that little pipe was missing, so that should fix that. Excellent, barbecue meat, always a bonus. So I actually want to store that new barbecue meat in my deep freeze, but the sweeper that's over here isn't going to pick it up, obviously, because it only gets barbecue meat that comes from the electric grill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a ration box and another conveyor loader with a sweeper that can access both those two things and connect that to the food line. So anything that goes in there is going to be deep freezed. In the Desolens, I'm going to actually cut off the dupes from going down in this area. What I'm doing at this point is I'm putting the settings on this. So it'll have the same settings in the conveyor loader. It's going to bring in barbecue meat. Same over here in the ration box. But I'm going to set that ration box to do a sweep only. And that's very important because I don't want it to pick up the food that's inside the deep freezer system. I only want to pick up food that's over here. In fact, looks like my dupes already ate it. So whatever, this system's going to be available if I ever get more printed barbecue meat in the future. So 5 tons of algae, that's going to be enough to get me started. I'm now going to bring over an arbor tree or an arbor acorn to be able to turn into a tree. And what I'm going to do ultimately with this, along with some pips, is get a system for producing food from the pip eggs. Looks like those acorns have been loaded. I just really need one. And now I'm going to bring in the 3 wheezy warts because I'm going to use that ultimately for radiation inside that world. So I can set up a interplanetary launcher to send material back to the homeworld. I don't expect the system of pips is going to provide me food right away, so I'm having some mealwood seeds brought with me because I don't want to have to dig out them when I get there. I had this issue with the Desolens, so I'll learn my lesson, bringing some mealwood seeds with me. I'm going to fill this rocket with water and oxygen. So here's the oxygen pipe that's going to go into this rocket. It's a little bit taller now. So I mentioned I sealed off my base, so my dupes can't go down here. The reason that I did this is I want this whole zone, even the ones that have a comfortable living area, to only have my dupes go into that when they go through the Atmos suits. So they can go between the different hot oil biomes. Explorer went through the skill scrubber, so I'm just giving them some digging and carrying skills. Over on the homeworld, the system that's going to be teleporting material to the Desolens. First thing I'm going to start off with is water. So water line is going to be connected to the interplanetary launcher. Okay, so inside this rocket, this is the one that's going to the frozen world. I've got my mealwood seeds, which is excellent. So that's going to allow me to rely on food for that in the short term when I first get there. And then I'm going to switch the pips as a process. So now I need a little bit of dirt, because in case I can't find that in that world, I can use that to grow that mealwood. Also going to bring in some, now that I've got the dirt loaded, some refined, or not refined metal, I'll have that with me, but just ore, metal ore. I'll start with copper. I'll have 2 tons of that, just a little bit, to get me started when I get over there. I'm sure I can find some metal ore in that asteroid. I'm configuring this bottle emptier to drop off nuclear waste here. So this is an exciting moment. I'm watching, oh, Radbolt went right through. That's because I didn't specify the location where oil is supposed to be sent. I'm telling it now, finally, to send oil to the homeworld. That's exciting. So that is the first payload that is being sent in space in this playthrough anyway. So that is going to very quickly make its way to the homeworld where I can turn it into plastic. So the two dupes that are going to go to the frozen world are going to be cold. No surprise. But I might as well give them some clothing that'll give them a bit of protection or insulation from the cold. So I will set up a station to create that here. Just constructing a Radbolt reflector that's going to send Radbolts into my interplanetary launcher in the homeworld. So now that I'm going to be receiving oil, and that's the first oil that's been dropped off in this world, I don't have a pipe anymore because I refactored around the water one that drops oil to the refinery. So just reconstructing that. So that fixes that problem. But I noticed another problem. I messed this up. So what was supposed to happen here is the ethanol line, the cold ethanol line, was supposed to go left through the steam turbines, cooling them off when it gets too hot. I get a temperature gauge way over on the left. So I've got to fix this. It's actually having the oil go through it, and that is not what I intended. So I'm going to disable this so all the ethanol will go there, and I'll make this fix. A lot of pipes going on in this area, so that caused a little bit of confusion apparently when I was constructing this. So what I want to do is I'm going to have to do a little bit of deleting or destroying and rebuilding. But what I want to do is have an oil, or actually it's going to be petroleum line rather now, still go down. So that'll be the middle line instead of that ethanol being there. So that's going to it's going to have ethanol on the left and right side. And the right side is going to go up, on the left side it's going to go down, and the petroleum line now in the middle is going to go down to the poly press. So just do a little cleanup there. Okay. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to take the petroleum line and move that so that, as I mentioned, it goes down the center. And I will change up this line on the left. So that is going to be the ethanol line coming back down for cooling. And now that it goes through that liquid shutoff, and with the temperature gauge, if the temperature gets high, I think I've got that set at 30 some degrees. If that temperature in water in the steam turbines gets above 30 degrees or so, the ethanol will go left on its way back, cooling it down. And then when it eventually gets below 30, it will stop doing that. So there, I believe that has fixed the problem. Now, if that temperature of the water in the steam turbines had gotten too high, above 100 degrees, they'd turn off. And then I wouldn't be able to handle the heat that comes from the metal refinery, from the poly press, and from the deep freeze system. So just watching the ethanol make its way back through and cool that off. So what it's going to do now, actually going to block this off so my dupes can't cross it, because I've got two different ways that they can get in atmo suits, and that's causing all kinds of confusion. So I'm going to maintain the vacuum and get that. But now you can see the ethanol going through this system, and its temperature is going to slowly go down. It's now under 30 degrees. So I should be getting false from that temperature gauge. So any future ethanol, there it is, false. There it is, skipping the steam turbines until it goes yet again above 30 degrees sometime in the future. So on the column on the far right, I've got this vacuum, and it kept turning to polluted oxygen. And I haven't bothered to look for the source. It's a little piece of polluted dirt. So I'm going to get my dupes to be able to reach it, sweep it, get it out of there, because I really just want to maintain that vacuum. That little piece of dirt, polluted dirt, is not letting me do that. So just about time to send a rocket to the frozen world, but I need to identify who's going to go. Definitely astronaut. They're going to be the pilot. I need to find one other dupe. They're going to be the one to land. Let's choose artist. I don't need an artist in this homeworld in the next little bit. So they're the two dupes that are going to go. I need to give them warm sweaters. I need to produce those sweaters first and make sure they wear them before they get on the rocket. And then I'll get them to go through the skill scrubber. Artist will be the first one to do that process. My dupe over here has constructed an area that has water blocking the two different atmospheres. I still need to create a vacuum with a pump, but I can do that later. Right now, I'm just going to start off by building the atmosuits stations and connect that with oxygen. So I'm currently relying on algae for this oxygen that goes into this space. So instead, I'm going to have oxygen be pumped from my homeworld and vent it to various spots here. And at the very end, it'll go into the atmosuits. So I won't be burning algae. In fact, I think I'm all out of algae, so that dupe would have ran into problems if they had to stay there too long. I also need to have oxygen to go into the teleporter system to make it get there. So I've got two sweaters, going to give that to Artist and Astronaut. So when they get to this frozen world, they'll have a little bit of protection. So Artist has their skills scrubbed. I'm going to now get the Astronaut to have their skills scrubbed. One of the things I want a lot of in the next little while is lead, and that's for the purpose of building automation systems in this frozen asteroid. Lead doesn't have good temperature overheat property to it, but because it's going to be in the frozen world, I don't really care. So I want to bring a pip with me to the frozen world, and that's going to be the initial food source. It'll also allow me to plant Wheezy worts and sleet wheat. So that'll go into the rock. I'm not going to bring sleet wheat with me because I'm afraid of that going bad. I'm not going to be able to make use out of it anyway. So there's a drop-off point for the pips. But sleet wheat, I can use the interplanetary launcher to send, as well as some other hot materials, such as ceramic, that I don't want to bother cooling with. It certainly will get cool when it gets to the frozen asteroid, but if I put it in the rocket, it could overheat that. So that's why I'm not loading every single material I need. I can rely on the interplanetary launcher. For all the other dupes, might as well give them a snazzy suit while they're here. Why not? Okay, so I loaded my rocket with several pipsqueaks. I decided to use the pipsqueaks since they're younger, and it's going to be a while before they're put to use, so they can slowly grow up over time, and then eventually use them for planting wild plants as well as a food in this new asteroid that I'm going to be going to. Here we are, time to go discover another asteroid. So I'm going to give Astronaut the piloting skills. Going to give Artist the digging skills, because when they land I expect they'll need to do a lot of that. Going to choose Astronaut and Artist. So they're going to go in it. They'll crew that rocket, and I'm going to go right next to that frozen asteroid. Again, I won't be able to land on it because it doesn't have a platform, but I will be able to take care of that in the next episode. And that'll be pretty much the main theme of the next episode, I'm guessing anyways, discovering this new world. But there it is. Rocket is on the way. They left their little thing. I'm just going to tell them to take off their Atmos suits as they travel there. Okay, so two things I want to mention this episode. First of all, you got to check all the systems that you make for little errors and bugs that may have cropped up in there. One example is the oxygen system. The alternate line for hydrogen and one of the hot oxygen lines didn't have a place to go. So that was fixed. So now the oxygen system is looking good, other than the fact I have to deal with heat soon. The other thing was the ethanol line wasn't actually going to the steam turbines. So that wasn't a problem yet because it was only getting about 30 or 40 degrees, but eventually that would have been a problem. Now I've got that fixed. The other thing I want to mention is just the fact that my dupes are on the way to the frozen asteroid, and I've got big plans when they get there. So if you want to see that, like, subscribe, and see you in a future episode.